This is my third upload for today, the 22nd of March, with regard to the human rights violations that are occurring. As I've mentioned throughout these uploads, there's been very serious human rights violations of medical rights being violated, marital rights, legal rights, etc., etc. And these uploads have been for the attention of United Nations, civil liberty agencies, politicians, authorities, etc., etc. As part of this vendetta, I've been intentionally isolated in a community that I was born in, and where I've worked, and where I volunteered, and where I've taught, and where I got married, and where I gave birth. So, this latest assault of my character, reputation, and good name is since 2015, and it's very serious what's happened. So, as I've mentioned, there's been isolation tactics, and there's been undermining of my profession, my contributions to society, my credentials, my work experience, my family life, my private life. So there's been a lot of um, chat about Emer Griffin McElligott that is unsubstantiated, that is defamatory, and that is very harmful to my career and my reputation and good name. Um, the biggest issue that I take with all of this is that since 2006, since the previous assault of my character occurred, um, I pretty much worked solitary and became self taught and became qualified in primary teaching. Um, so the past few years before I got married were very busy, with a lot of productivity, a lot of proactive behavior and activity and whatnot. And basically, since I've gotten married in 2015 and since I've given birth, these people have intruded incessantly and shamelessly, and have violated all of my constitutional rights. They've taken credit for work that I have achieved, and they've disrespected my credentials, as I've mentioned. The most serious aspect of this is the effect on my private life, my family life, and my physical well being. Um, the intrusion that I've experienced by mental health professionals has been absolutely horrendous. The defamation of a fully functioning individual coping with these kind of violations that have defamed mental health is very dangerous and very serious. And the abuse of mental health services against a woman that is being victimized and violated by a collective group of people that is fully sane and that has been challenged by these kind of obstacles that have been intentionally perpetrated and caused to disrupt the hierarchy of needs that all citizens are entitled to. Um, that I take great exception to when there are people out there that actually need assistance and that aren't being uh, confronted or assisted with their mental health issues. So, as I'm saying or making this point, the issue is that there have been people that have no business intruding in my private life, that have thought it possible for them to dictate and instigate about outcomes and decisions regarding a citizen, an adult citizen, speaking on this upload now currently, just sharing what I'm sharing, what's happening with me in this vendetta, and these people guilty of very serious human rights violations and thinking they're in a position to discuss my prospects, my future, and deciding to withhold what I'm entitled to. These kind of people that think they're in control of another person's future, um, after causing so much damage and trying to obstruct the rights and entitlements of a law abiding citizen that I keep emphasizing, is absolutely horrendous. So these people that would be anonymous, that would be strangers, that would be negligent professionals, that would be responsible for very serious theft from me, and that are avoiding confronting their wrongdoings while further jeopardizing my future after the damage that they've already caused. I'm just wondering, what have politicians and authorities and civil liberty agencies to say about this matter? Because we all have constitutional rights, we all have human rights, but getting married and individuals thinking they're in a position to intrude, impose, and to damage another person's livelihood, health, well being, character, reputation, prospects, and opportunities, um, all that has been damaged in the past 4 years, in my experience, by these people that have been violating the legal system, that have been by hook or by crook orchestrating the most sinister circumstances and situations without acknowledging the damage, the spiritual damage done to sovereign sentient being. So basically, this is ongoing, and my rights and entitlements are as important as the next person. And people thinking that they're going to lower a person that has achieved and earned and worked for what they succeeded as, until they commence their vendetta with tactics of denigration, displacement, impoverishment, defamation. All these kind of things are happening in this human rights issue. So I'm just wondering, how are the civil liberty groups, authorities, and politicians justifying the identity theft, the property theft, the financial theft, the spiritual violations, all that I've experienced without support services or advocacy um, in this entire ordeal that's occurring? How is it being facilitated and how is it being justified? Because a lot of what I've heard and seen and experienced since being married is highly irrational. And I'm just wondering about the role of mental health services in this entire situation, and how people that have no direct engagement or contact and that haven't even had the courtesy to consult with me have been continuously facilitated in their violations, offences, and wrongdoings. So these people that are so guilty that they are continuously and persistently causing the trouble that they're causing and insulting and injuring innocent life, children's rights, women's rights, and human rights, how are they being facilitated in 2020 democratic Ireland? And why have those agencies um, not found it a little bit worrying that the contact and correspondence that I've been making to them has been followed up by the very individuals that have violated my privacy, my technological privacy, my online data? They have violated my privacy, and they have sent emails to these individuals. Does anyone find this a concerning issue to be ignoring? Is it not worrying for other citizens that it could happen to them just as easily? And especially with regards to marital rights and marital desertion and issues such as adultery and falsification of information, defamation, etc., etc., etc. So these are ongoing issues in this experience that I am coping with without politicians, government authorities, and civil liberty agencies, um, without their support or without their acknowledgement of how serious this matter actually is. So basically, these people that have been intruding and stealing and lying continuously and profusely have caused immeasurable damage. Um, this is a very serious matter for everyone, whether they think so or not. And those obstructing justice and perverting justice and avoiding, um, you know, confronting the offences that they've perpetrated against me and the lies that they've told. Um, how does a respectable government explain this kind of a situation? How is it justifiable to defend the inhumane? And I'm just curious, with all due respect to the government and the authorities and the great work that you all achieve and whatnot, how do you think it's acceptable or tolerable for an innocent woman and mother and deserted wife to be placed in this situation without having caused these offences against anyone? I've not violated children's rights or human rights. I have worked for the fellowship, I have worked for the Department of Education, etc., etc., etc. And for this to be happening, I'm just wondering, how are the authorities and the politicians justifying it? How are they rationalizing it? And how are they tolerating it and not actually confronting this kind of societal malaise that would only worsen if facilitated any further? So, health is wealth, and due to the seriousness of how this situation is, um, I have had to close down my bank account. I don't have a bank account. I have been overcharged with interest. I have been evicted from my current county council one bedroom apartment. I've been harassed from previous accommodation. I've been defamed. I've experienced medical incompetence. My legal aid and my legal supports are, you know, so I'd appreciate it if the authorities and the politicians would take this matter a little bit more seriously and confront how serious a situation is being caused in society.